Welcome back to Hey Kentucky. After this weekend, another huge Yahtzee for Mark Stoops and company. To talk more about 2021 recruiting, I want to welcome in the publisher of Cats Illustrated, Justin Rowland. Hey, Justin, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
So Jagger Burton says yes to Kentucky. And right now, the top two recruits on this 2021 class are not just from Lexington, but they're both from the same high school, and DeKel Crowdis and Jagger Burton. Talk about the importance of keeping those two guys here.
Well, there aren't many four-star players in the state of Kentucky. The talent in the state is rising, but we had 8 4-stars 2 seasons ago in the state and 5 last year. Not as many this year. So for a program like Kentucky that doesn't have as much in-state talent as a lot of the other schools in the SEC, you really have to successfully recruit the guys that you do have that are SEC caliber in your backyard. And Jagger Burton, DeKel Crowdis are 2 of the 3 best players in the state, the top 2 players in the state, according to Rivals. And now you just round out the class with other guys. But yeah, they did a great job recruiting those guys. Vince Morrow has really successfully recruited the state of Kentucky, and schools like Frederick Douglass and North Hardin have really become talent-producing pipelines, and Kentucky's gotten pretty much whoever they wanted from those schools.
So if you kind of go down the list of commits, there's a lot on the offensive line. There's quite a few wide receivers. What does Kentucky still need to get out of next year's class?
Well, the number one thing is they need to keep their commits on board. A lot of people have expected that there are going to be a lot of decommitments this class across the country, not because of anything they've done wrong, just because we haven't had official visits. We might not have any official visits. It's harder to build relationships with coaches, even when you're committed to a school. And a lot of guys committed early trying to hold their spot because of all the uncertainty, making sure that they aren't left out. So keeping guys on board. Wide receiver Armon Scott and Joko Willis, junior college linebacker, had tweeted in the past that they might be a little bit open. But as far as positions, I would expect one more linebacker. I would expect another cornerback, and I would expect maybe 1 or 2 more offensive linemen. But it's probably not going to be one of their bigger classes. They've got most of their work done.
So while everyone's kind of in the same boat recruiting-wise, obviously, at least right now, the Big Ten is not playing football in the fall at the same time anyways as the SEC, ACC, and Big 12. How will, when they play, if they play, who plays, how will that impact recruiting, do you think?
Well, I don't think it's going to help the Big Ten when you've got players all over the country watching the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC playing games. I don't think it's gonna get a bunch of guys who would have gone to Ohio State to go to Kentucky. But when you're talking about guys that Michigan State was recruiting, guys that Wisconsin was recruiting, players that Iowa, schools like that in the Big Ten, Minnesota are recruiting, it's certainly not going to hurt for Kentucky to be in the headlines. You think a few weeks from now when they're playing at Auburn week 1, there's going to be a lot of hype around the program, and there's going to be more of a national spotlight on the teams that are playing. So you would figure it would help, especially a program like Kentucky that's kind of a border state between the SEC and the Big Ten. They're recruiting a lot of those guys who aren't going to be watching Big Ten football this fall.
So Mark Stoops and company have gradually every year really improved depth on this team. And that's why I think they feel this year they're most well prepared to play a full 10-game SEC schedule. What do you think has been key? Vince Marrow or just the staff in general, the cohesiveness of it, the key to success for Kentucky over the past couple of years in building that depth?
Well, Mark Stoops will talk about recruiting and development, and those two things are really important. I think Morrow has played a role in that. John Sumrall recently, Steve Clinkscale, the assistant coaches. I think it's the best staff of recruiters that Kentucky has ever assembled in my lifetime. And, that goes to the administration putting more money into the salary pool. It goes to the program's prestige, keeping those guys on the staff. But there's also a program management aspect that starts at the top with Mark Stoops making good decisions, with continuity, and with keeping guys in the program. A big part of building depth is avoiding attrition. When I was growing up, there were some years when Kentucky was allowed to have 85 scholarship players, but they might have only had 65 or 68 at a given time because of attrition or for other reasons. And they've done a really good job of keeping guys in the program. So knowing who you're bringing into the program, keeping them on track academically, and all the support staff play a role in that.
Justin Rowland, the publisher of Cats Illustrated, thanks for being with us today and for all your insight.
Thanks as always. Yep.
All right, much more Hey Kentucky right after this.